Welcome to this tutorial. In this tutorial I will explain how to use variables and events. And I make use of the switch node to show how to execute different parts of the chain graph depending on the input you entered in the chat. In this example I will check the message entered in the chat for certain commands. Start for enabling the agent to respond to messages. Stop for disabling the agent to respond to messages. Help to give an overview of the commands. And otherwise, execute the default flow. I use the switch node to check if some text is equal to a certain case value. If a case value is equal, it will set that port to true, and it will trigger the nodes connected to this port. If no case value is equal, then the default port will be set to true. The input port is the value I want to check. In this example, the text port from the onNewMessage node. And with the cases port, I define all the values I want to evaluate. The start, stop, help. With the add field, you can enter a new key to evaluate. When making a chain graph, it executes each node by following the connected port from node to node. With events, you can separate different parts of the chain graph without connecting them directly together. There are two event nodes. The event emitter. With this node you can send an event. When triggered, it will send out an event with the name you entered in the event name field. You can also send some values with the event emitter, with the payload port. In this example we have no payload value. Later in this tutorial I show you an example of how to use the event emitter with payload value. I connected each case port to an event emitter. The onStart, onStop, onHelp and the onNo command. For example, when I enter start in the chat, the case with start will evaluate to true and will trigger the connected event emitter. And this will send out an event with the name onStart. And we have the event listener. This node will listen to incoming events. It evaluates if the event contains the same name as the name entered in the event name field. When it is the same, it will trigger the connected nodes to execute. In this example, when the event emitter sends onStart event, it evaluates the onStart name if it is the same as the onStart entered in the event name field, and then it triggers the flow behind it. Here I have event listener for onStart, for the onStop, the onHelp, and for the onNo command. Here you see all these parts are not connected together, and this way you can make different parts of chain graph without connecting them. With this example, I want the agent only respond if the agent is awake. To get this working, I use variable nodes. With the ArchAI set variable node, you can store values in a variable and use these variables in other parts in chain graph when needed. In the variable name field, you can enter the name of the variable you want to set. And with the value field, you set the value. A variable can be stored in 4 different namespaces. The execution namespace, Variable set in this namespace will only be remembered during the current execution of the flow. Every time the flow is executed, all variables from previous executions are gone. The agent namespace. Variable set in this namespace will be remembered during the lifetime of the agent. This means that the agent can use these variables in all chats he is in. For example, the agent sets the variable in a chat 1 and can use that value in chat 2. The chat namespace. Variables set in this namespace will be remembered during the lifetime of the current chat you are in. This means even other agents can use these variables in the chain graph. For example, agent 1 sets a variable to a value and agent 2 can use that variable value to use in his chain graph. The chat agent namespace. Variables set in this namespace will be remembered during the lifetime of the chat and the lifetime of the agent. This means that only the agent can use these variables in the current chat. For example, the agent sets the variable in current chat. Other agents cannot use this variable in the current chat, and also the agent cannot use these variables in other chats. When I enter start in the chat, the variable is awake will be set to true. And with the create message, the agent responds with started. This way I can see if the variable is set to true. When I enter stop in the chat, the variable is awake will set to false. And with the create message node, the agent responds with stopped. This way I can see if the variable is set to false. When I enter help in the chat, the agent will respond with helping. Here I don't use variables and will always show this text when I enter help. For reading variables, I use the ArchAI get variable node. With the variable name field, I enter the name of the variable I want to read. In this case, the isAwake variable. Choose the namespace of the variable. This is the same namespace you use to set the variable. And you can choose to use a default value if the variable does not exist. In my example, I use true as a default value. When I enter something other than start, stop or help, it will read the isAwake variable and decide to answer or not to answer. When true, the create message node will respond to the chat with answering. And when false, the other create message will respond to chat with not answering. I use the not node to make false to true so I can trigger that create message nodes for this example. I now also made a create message node with the text variable not exists. So when the variable does not exist, when you start chatting, there's no variable at that moment. It will check if it exists. It will give true. If it's not true, then it triggers this create message node. And now I will demo this functionality. This is the first time I chat. I enter hello. There's no commands are used yet. Yeah, and he is answering. He used the default value and also shows variable not exist. When I put in start, it will give started. When I enter now, hello, he only shows answering. Now the variable exists and is true. That's why he is giving the answer answering. Now I use stop. Now the variable is set to false, gives the message stopped. And when I say again, hello, it gives the message not answering because the variable is false. He is not awake. And when I enter help, it gives helping. In this example, I made the same functionality but with only one event. I made an onCommand event and sent a payload value with this event. This means you can send some values to other parts in chaingraph. Here I use the text on the new message node as payload. To use the payload, you first create fields with the Add Field button. You enter a field name and choose the type of value you want to send. I made a text field command and connected the text field to that command field. And here I use an event listener that also receives a payload value. In the event name field I use the same event name on command. And in the event data field I add fields that must be the same as the fields you defined in the event emitter node. In this case, I use the command field. Here I connect the command field to the switch node and made the same functionality as in the previous example. But now all different parts connected together. Here the start case sets the variable is awake to true and sends started. The stop sets the is awake to false and sends stopped. Then use help sends helping, and when entering something else, it reads the variable and depending on the value gives answering or not answering, or if the variable is not set, also variable not exists. And now a short demo where I use two agents in the chat. I want each agent stop and start each other by using commands. For this I use two variables isAwake and isAwake2. In the first example, event without payload value, I change the variable name isAwake to isAwake2. This way it sets isAwake variable. This will be read by the other agent and reads isAwake2 variable that is set by the other agent. In the second example, the event with payload value, I change the variable name in the set variable nodes to isAwake2 and also change the commands to start2, stop2 and help2. This way each agent use their own commands. I use the two agents. Test case bot is from example 1. Test case 2 bot is from the example 2. First, I will enter hello. Now is awake 1 and is awake 2 not set, and it will show that both variables are not there. When I enter start, it will set the variable to started, and also test case 2 has to read that variable, and the variable exists. When I enter stop, test case 2 was earlier than test case, that's why he said answering, but when I enter hello again, it will say not answering. And test case still the variable not exist because we didn't use the commands for agent 2. When I enter stop 2, that's nice to see what happened. Test case is now later with answering. This the variable is set before he could answer, and now he shows also not answering. Help is for agent 1 and help 2 is for agent 2. You see, they use their own commands. And this is a nice way how you can set variables and both use the same variables in a different ways. In this example, they can shut down each other. In this tutorial, you learned how to use events and also use variables and a taste of the switch node. Thank you for watching. Until next time.